What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for a UFC fight night happening in China this Saturday. Now, this card is actually, if you live in the United States, this card is going to be starting at 3:30 in the morning for the prelims. And I believe this is all on Fight Pass. So I would only imagine a lot of people in the United States, maybe even in Europe, are not going to watch this card live. I mean, the European audience usually watches these cards late whenever it's in the United States, so maybe they'll stay up. But I think people are going to be catching this the next day. But when you look at the actual card, people are down on the card mainly because they don't know most of the fighters. But fighters I see on the card and prospects like Song Yadong are definitely someone to watch for in the bantamweight division. There are some fun fights on this one. So we're going to start with Yan Xiaonan versus Sergei Kondo. Now this is going to be a pretty interesting fight between Yan, who is more of a Sanda fighter, and Kondo, who is more of a traditional Muay Thai fighter. Now Yan has crazy power for the strawweight division. Power to legitimately knock down opponents with her punches, as we saw in her Colin Curran fight. Multiple times hurt Curran throughout the duration of the fight, and very strong punches. She sits on everything, has a very dynamic lead kick to the legs, to the head, and unlike Muay Thai fighters, she doesn't really switch when she throws it. She throws it from her stance and that's it, which relieves some of the power, but adds more of a surprising factor to it. And she is willing to stand and trade if it comes to that. She is very confident in her punching ability, very confident in her power and her ability to take a punch, especially in the strawweight division. And she has a good sense of getting away, but there's a problem sometimes when she tries to get away from the mid-range, and that is she crosses her feet almost every single time, which can allow someone like Kondo to chase her down or potentially land a body kick or blitz her down with some punches. But it's not so much in Kondo's style to do that. Kondo, very traditional Muay Thai, great Thai clinch, lead leg is always up, always ready to throw front kicks, always ready to intercept her opponent with it. And she has a pretty good right hand, I guess. Not too much power in her strikes, and the clinch she is very powerful, and on the ground she is very powerful, but I do not think it's going to get to the ground that easily. I think it's going to be a striking match for the most part because Yan has good takedown defense. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Yan Xiaonan in this one. I'm actually going to go by a decision. I see her dominating the most part of the fight. And then we go to Jing Liang versus David Sawada. This is going to be a pretty fun fight. Jing Liang is dynamic. I mean, he is so powerful with everything he throws. Everything is with bad intentions, but nothing's really set up by anything. He doesn't throw too many combinations, and if they are, it's every punch to knock the opponent out. He has a very strong right straight, good leg kicks, good jab, good 1-2 at times, overhand right, left hook counter, and good takedown defense. He also has the takedown threat if he wants to go that route. Now, I don't think he wants to do that against David Sawada because I believe Sawada is a lot more tricky on the ground than Jing Liang is, and he could potentially catch something. So sticking it on the feet where Sawada is most vulnerable, especially when Sawada is trying to dictate the pace, that's where Jing Liang is going to have the most opportunities. David Sawada gets hit. Let's be honest, he gets hit. He runs into the right straight a lot. He'll try to set up things with the left hook, but it's very wide and he turns away and then he forces his right hand and faces the opponent as he does it. And if he gets caught by a right counter, it could be game over. And on that long, wide left hook, there's a right straight right down the middle as an opening. And coincidentally, that is Jing Liang's, or at least one of his most powerful weapons. David Sawada does have pretty good movement. He has pretty good leg kicks. He has a good inside leg kick. And he does commit. But against a guy like Jing Liang, who is always expecting that rush, who's always preparing for his counter shots, I don't think it's a good fight for David Sawada. So I'm going to go with Jing Liang. I'm actually going to go by a second round TKO. I think he's going to catch Sawada with that right hand and eventually put him away. And then we go to Song Yadong versus Vince Morales. Now, this is one of the biggest fights, or at least one of the most anticipated fights for me on the entire card, because if anybody has seen Song Yadong in his first fight in the UFC, you have to be high on this kid. I mean, we're talking about legitimate striking ability and KO power in the bantamweight division. A scary prospect. Yadong's in and out movement is excellent. He's always balanced. He's always there to deliver power. His right hand is so dynamic. He has insane killer instinct. If elbows present themselves, he'll throw them. The right overhand is a huge weapon which he used against Bharat Kandari. He has a good ability to set up his right hand behind his jab. Now, he does have a pretty short reach for his height, but he is so quick on getting in the distance he needs. It's almost like his reach doesn't matter. And when he gets in on you, his infighting is dangerous. He'll go to the body with the left hook quickly and exit with the right overhand. His leg kicks are powerful. His counter shots on the inside, he'll wait for you to get all the way in and unleash that right hand on you. Song Yadong is extremely dangerous in the mid to close range exchanges, and he is so fast on entering from the outside distance, it catches people unexpected. And we go to Vince Morales. He's also not a plotter at all. He's very elusive. He's always constantly moving in and out. He really puts a lot of weight on each foot as he moves, rather than Song Yadong, where he is really balanced everywhere he moves. Morales is always looking to explode or counter. He doesn't set up a whole lot. If he's going to attack or counterattack, it's going to be with a lot of commitment, which sometimes gets him off balance. Sometimes it can be a little bit obvious. He throws his right hand a lot more than his left hand, being an orthodox fighter, and that leaves Song Yadong more opportunities to counter Vince Morales, where Song Yadong does the opposite. He will set his jabs a lot more. His right hand is the finisher, but most of what he does is with that left hand, which leaves himself more defensively responsible. And Vince Morales also leans a lot to his right, defensively. So if you rush in on him, you throw something at him, he's always leaning to his right. Very similar to Daniel Cormier, he can get caught by left high kick, left hook, left uppercut by Song Yadong, or Yadong can come over the top with the elbow as Morales is trying to rebound back into his stance from dipping. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go Song Yadong. I'm going to go by a first round knockout. I think Morales leaves too many openings to get capitalized on. And then we go to Alistair Overeem versus Sergei Pavlovich. This is a tough fight to call because of where Alistair Overeem is in his career and where his chin is at. Because Overeem is the better striker. This is a contest between two strikers, and Overeem has that experience, he has a skill, he has a speed, as well as heavyweight power to knock out anybody. But if he gets touched once by Pavlovich, this fight is over. Overeem is an amazing kickboxer, right? He has good elite leg kicks, good elite side kick, can switch stances. He has very powerful left body kicks. And in the clinch, there's no one better than Overeem in the heavyweight division. But his biggest weapon is going to be that left straight down the middle as he tries to step on the outside when he takes a southpaw stance. Because Pavlovich, he's very defensive. Now, he has an 84-inch reach. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage over Overeem, which is crazy. But Pavlovich stays back and he looks for his opportunities at every angle. He looks for the right straight most of the time. That's his biggest weapon, but it's obvious when he comes in with it. So Overeem stepping on the outside to get away from that right straight and landing his quicker left straight down the middle should catch Pavlovich almost every single time. The left body kick from the outside as Pavlovich is staying back, that's a weapon as well. The lead side kick is going to be a big weapon too. So with these weapons, I think Overeem should win this fight. But Pavlovich, if he's able to exchange with Overeem at any point, cover up and throw that right hand and potentially catch Overeem with it, he will win this fight. And having that long reach, if he decides to go forward on Overeem and try to beat him at a distance, this is going to get very interesting because Overeem has fought two long fighters like this before. Stefan Struve and Francis Ngannou. Stefan Struve was in 2014 and a very, very different striker than Ngannou and Pavlovich. Ngannou is more of a similar fighter to Pavlovich. And Overeem had a problem with that distance and with Ngannou in general. And this is a very different striker who has a better chin and very powerful hands. And when he hurts you, he does not let you go. So my prediction for the fight, I'm going to go with Overeem. I think he should win the fight. It's just the chin factor is going to be very hard to make a confident pick in this. So I'm going to go with Overeem. I'm going to go by a first round TKO. Everybody's going to have to be sitting on the edge of their seat for this one because it can end at any moment. And then we go to the main event. Curtis Blaydes versus Francis Ngannou 2. This is the hardest fight to call in the entire card. Because if Francis Ngannou is in the right state of mind, he should win this fight, similar to how he won the first one. But if he is not in the right state of mind, Curtis Blaydes is going to take him down and wear him out into maybe an eventual TKO. Now, Curtis Blaydes is one of the best wrestlers in the entire division. He's one of the biggest guys in the entire division. Long reach as well. Not the greatest striking. Not the most power in his hands. I don't think he has the power to KO Francis Ngannou on the feet because Ngannou, as we all know, has an insanely good chin. He took shots from Stipe Miocic for 5 rounds, even gassed out, and never looked rocked in the entire fight. Blaydes does blitz down a little bit, but he's using it a lot more intelligently to set up his takedown, set up that double leg especially, where he just blasts right through opponents and takes them down. It's a constant game plan of his. He said earlier in his career he was trying to strike a lot more, but now he's being smarter and utilizing his strengths because his strength is something that a lot of fighters in this division don't have, at that level at least. I mean, you got Stipe, you got Cain Velasquez, but that's really it. Daniel Cormier, of course. And on the ground, Curtis Blaydes should handle Francis Ngannou if he can keep him down there. I mean, his ground and pound is vicious like we saw in the Alistair Overeem fight. His pressure is all there. His composure, his positioning. He's very good on the half guard, on side control, getting the mount, and just landing ground and pound. And on the feet, he does have a pretty good jab and a decent straight right. Now, I wouldn't be throwing the straight right a whole lot unless he's looking to change levels right away from that, because he will get countered if we're taking into consideration dangerous Francis Ngannou like we've seen before. That's the Francis Ngannou I'm going to be thinking about. I'm not going to think about the one that fought Derek Lewis, even though that could be very much possible in this fight. It's just, if that's the Francis Ngannou that's going to be fighting, he has no chance of winning this fight. So if Curtis Blaydes rushes down with that right hand and doesn't change levels right away, he will get countered for it. Now, Francis Ngannou is a striker, more of a boxer than anything. He could switch stances and fight very well in either stance, even against Curtis Blaydes. He fought him a lot in the southpaw stance, cashing with that left straight over and over again, especially when Blaydes is trying to come in on him. And even though Blaydes does have great takedowns and he has good takedown setups, he had a very hard time taking down Ngannou in the first fight. Very hard time because of the distance he shot from. And people knock Francis Ngannou for his takedown defense unfairly to a point, because only one guy was able to take this guy down at will, and even had a hard time at some points in the fight doing it, and that's Stipe Miocic. I mean, it's not like he took him down every single time he attempted it. He had to work for a lot of those takedowns. Curtis Blaydes was struggling to get Ngannou to the ground for the most part. So we know Ngannou can stuff Curtis Blaydes' takedowns. And Francis Ngannou, who fought Andrei Arlovski and fought Alistair Overeem, who was better than he ever was before, if that's a Francis Ngannou that shows up, or even better than that, I think he'll be more than willing to stop a lot of Curtis Blaydes' takedowns and land counter shots, land a long jab especially, take the orthodox stance, take the southpaw stance, land the left straight. Francis Ngannou is a lot better with distance work. He could be very good at manipulating the distance, manipulating the space, zoning opponents against the cage, which he has done many times prior to the UFC, and landing that powerful right hand or even the left hand. His uppercuts are dangerous. His lead uppercut, I mean, I've never seen anyone in the UFC throw a lead uppercut like Francis Ngannou does. The torque he puts into that, the force he puts up, it's scary. So my prediction for this fight, since I did say I'm going to be considering a right state of mind Francis Ngannou who will be willing to go for it, I will go with him, and I'm pretty confident he would win that fight. That will be my official prediction for the fight, but if he's not, and that is very possible, and a lot of people are expecting Francis Ngannou not to be who he once was, Curtis Blaydes will dominate this fight from bell to bell. So this is one of the hardest fights I've actually ever had to call. I will stick with Ngannou. I'll go by a third round TKO. I mean, he was dropping Curtis Blaydes before. And people also say Ngannou doesn't have cardio to go the 3 rounds. I mean, he was willing to go 3 rounds with Curtis Blaydes before. He wasn't even gassing out in the first fight. And he was putting the hammer on Blaydes for the most part. So, as long as he's stuffing the takedowns, I don't think he's going to be gassing out too much. So, I'm going with Ngannou. I'm going to go by a third round TKO, even though Blaydes has an insane chin himself. It's just Ngannou is that dangerous on the feet. And I just want to say, really quickly, I do have Tito Ortiz beating Chuck Liddell pretty handily. Striking is too much. The age of Chuck Liddell is it's just too much of a factor. So I'll go with Tito Ortiz taking down Chuck Liddell, TKOing him maybe in the first round. Just putting that out there. So let's look at the betting odds really quick to see if there's anything interesting. Louis Smolka's back in the UFC. He's going to be fighting the bantamweight division for this fight against, I cannot pronounce his name, Sumudarji. Now, Louis Smolka is going to have a problem on the feet, but if he can get it to the ground, he should easily win the fight. It's going to be hard. Can he get down on his opponent? I don't know. He hasn't fought in the UFC for a while. I think he left the UFC on a 4-loss streak, and now he's on a 3-win streak. Impressive wins. And Sumudarji is coming off 1 loss due to submission, but most of his wins are knockouts, but he's a young, hungry fighter. He's only 22 years old, so that's an interesting one. Louis Smolka, a 2-1 favorite. One to probably do more research on. And then we have huge favorites on the card. I mean, it's crazy. Kevin Holland is a 5-1 favorite over John Phillips. I know Kevin Holland lost to Thiago Santos in his last fight, which was a big step in competition, but is he that far ahead of John Phillips? I really haven't looked too much of John Phillips, so I can't really say, but they're both very new. And like I always say, when you ever see... This is a little bit different than before, because Kevin Holland has experience in the UFC, but when you see 2 newer guys fight, and one of them is that big of a favorite over the other, it's a bit alarming. I do think Kevin Holland probably should win the fight, because he does look pretty impressive in some of his fights, but can't really say it in confidence, because I don't really know too much about John Phillips. Now, this is a shocker. Jessica Aguilar is a 4-1 underdog against Weili Zhang. You're talking about Jessica Aguilar, who was at one point the greatest strawweight on the planet. She lost a couple fights. She is coming off a win, but she's just so inactive. I think people forgot about her. Zhang is a bit of a striker. She is dangerous on the feet, and I believe she's a bit bigger than Jessica Aguilar. A bit bigger. So even if Aguilar can get it to the ground, it's still be interesting with the strength of Zhang because she's known for it. But Aguilar has experience behind her and that wrestling and the grit. She is as much of a veteran as you can get in women's MMA. And being a 4-1 underdog is a bit shocking. Lauren Mueller, I think I pronounce it. She's a monster. She's a monster. I do think she will win that fight. Sergei Pavlovich is a favorite, a little bit of a favorite over Overeem, which is interesting. I think they're looking at Overeem's chin is gone, and Pavlovich is this young guy, 12 years younger than Overeem with KO power. So maybe that's what they're banking on. But Overeem has a skill still. But if he gets touched once, it's over. It's a tough fight to call. It's very tough. And then Ngannou is a 2-1 underdog. I mean, where he has fallen from just a couple fights. He was the favorite against Blaydes in the first fight, I believe. And he was dominating everybody. And then now he's a 2-1 underdog over the same guy he beat. And that was like, what, 2 years ago? Not even? Now, I think they're looking at Ngannou not being in the right state of mind, but if he is in the right state of mind, I think he should win the fight. If he's not, he's going to lose. And the hardest thing about this fight is nobody knows how Ngannou's going to feel. If you're going to bet on Ngannou, you're banking on how he feels for the fight, and nobody knows. Besides his camp and himself. Actually, not even his camp. I think just himself. He's the only guy that knows how he feels out there. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. For my next video is going to be my podcast. I'm going to try to get it out by the morning or by tonight, so be lookout for that. And then I'm going to make a breakdown one of the fights this weekend. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States, or if you celebrate anywhere else. And I'll see you guys in the next video.